Welcome to the Dental Marketing Guy Show. I'm Justin, the Dental Marketing Guy, and today it is a huge honor to interview a real HIPAA expert. We have Jill Obrochta, and she is a 20-year plus veteran of the clinical dental hygiene arena who specialized in patient motivation and chairside verbal skills. And now she's considered one of the country's top dental OSHA and HIPAA compliance experts. You're going to want to hear what Jill has to say because the implications for your practice are huge. If you've ever known or heard about someone who's been bit by the HIPAA monster, man, we're talking $10 million fines. We're talking really big deal here. We're going to talk about how to protect yourself. And in fact, Jill has a special offer at the end of the interview for those of you who are interested in learning more about how to protect yourself from HIPAA and OSHA and how to be compliant. Really huge value we're going to get into. Let me tell you a little more about Jill. She's a compliance researcher. She's a product developer and OSHA, GHS, and HIPAA training specialist. She is an internationally published writer and educator for several top industry manufacturers, including ProDentec, Capital One, Waterpik Technologies, 3M, ESPE, PG&E, and she is the founder of DentalEnhancements.com. That's the website. Her own nationwide web-based education company specializing in OSHA and HIPAA training, and she makes it easy. So she's here to talk to us about her enthusiasm, about how you can protect yourself, protect your practice. The last thing we want is to have you build your dream practice and then have it crumbling down because of government intervention and penalties. So I've said a lot about this, but you know what? I can't talk nearly as well about the technicals as you, Jill. How are you?
I'm doing awesome, Justin. It's really nice to be here. I'm so excited to talk to your audience, and it was great when I heard from you when you reached out. You know, my favorite topic is compliance, and HIPAA is really the new OSHA. So there's so many things that doctors need to be aware of, not only the doctor, but their team as well with regards to OSHA and HIPAA.
Excellent. And you know, I've done a little vetting of you. You know, I've seen you on Dental Town. I've heard good things about you, and I'd love to just delve into this. You know, let's where do we start? Let's talk about you know, what is HIPAA? You know, kind of the history and evolution and meaning of HIPAA.
HIPAA. So HIPAA started in the 90s, and it really stands for Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act of 1996. So right around that time, when people were moving, you got transferred or you were moving, insurance companies were making insurance policies skyrocket in price. So originally, the president put a cap on any insurance company being able to price gouge. Later, it sort of morphed itself by the year 2000 to have a right to privacy. Many executives were going to interview for jobs, and they were getting discriminated against if the big bosses were checking into their health history. Did they have any communicable disease? And they were discriminated against. So then the government intervened then. Somewhere around 2003, all healthcare facilities, including dental offices, had to have patients sign a HIPAA patient acknowledgement form. And really what this was a pledge from the doctor to not give away, sell their health information for marketing purposes, like name, address, phone number. We were just getting into emails, that sort of thing. And today, HIPAA protects an individual's past, present, or future protected health information, PHI. There are a ton of acronyms in the HIPAA world. So PHI is what a doctor and his team really need to be aware of. They need to know what is PHI, what does that mean for the dental office. That's a little bit of the history and the evolution of HIPAA, but now it changes and it accelerates so quickly these days. You know, when we think about 2003, we started with HIPAA signing simple forms, and we're going to keep everything private. Then in 2013, there was a huge change to the HIPAA laws. These laws are called HIPAA Omnibus rules. The Omnibus rules deal with much stricter privacy and security. When we started to work work on the internet at the workplace, this is when things went a bit crazy. At the same time, we're enjoying the pleasures of the internet, you know, being able to email patient documents, contact insurance companies, contact labs and other dental offices. There's also identity thieves, especially where I live here in Florida and in California. California just put out a great report. In fact, if anyone wants the report, they can email me, Jill@dentalenhancements.com, or just Google the California HIPAA report. It just came out at the beginning of 2016. And it says what identity thieves are doing. I'll share that with your audience today, how to protect your dental office from identity theft. So on one way, we're being able to have this extraordinary information flow, right, with other dental professionals, labs, insurance companies. On the other hand, identity thieves are poking into the dental office or the healthcare facility to either get their emails, links to emails, and have ransomware, have their computers shut down. They have payment they're requesting in Bitcoin, crazy things like that. And even breaking into dental offices. You know, in Florida and California, they're targeting healthcare and dental offices to steal servers that are unprotected, to steal the take-along backup drives. Really, you should do away with those and go to a purely automatic and offsite encrypted type backup for your daily data backup. Even laptops that aren't protected, even your cell phones. If you're using cell phones for texting, you see how there's this big web. So the information is great for information, technology is great for information sharing, but then on the counter side, we really have to protect the patient's information from getting encounters with identity thieves. That's really the main gist of these new HIPAA Omnibus rules, the big change in 2013.
Okay, so you mentioned something about having backup drives, and so what can you recommend? Like, is there a specific company, or can you say, like, what for the viewers, what can they do to take action on that aspect of it if they were to do so unilaterally? Is there a company that does this, or?
This is a huge change for a dentist, because since 2003, the dentist is doing his due diligence. He does his backup, he takes it home, he protects it. It's his baby. That's your pride and joy. That's all of your patient information. But nowadays, if you have a HIPAA breach, something that can hurt your patients financially, their reputation, certainly their identity, right? So if you have paired up these three magic patient identifiers, social security number paired with their name and their birthday. Now, those are the magic for an identity thief. That's what they're after. So on a server or on a backup drive, what do you have? 1,000, 2,000 of your patients' information that has social security, name, and birthday. So if you're taking along that sacred backup drive, it's best to get educated and choose a reliable, off-site encrypted, cloud-type backup. Do away with those backup drives. I see it all the time. If you have one of those lost and stolen, here's the scenario. More than 500 patients' files have been compromised. Here's the first thing you have to do. You have to contact all the patients, either verbally and in writing. How are you going to do that? 1,000 to 2,000 of your patients? That takes manpower. So straight away, you have to have a dedicated person to contact everyone about the loss or the theft of the take-along drive. Next, you have to contact all media in your area, TV, radio, and newspaper. By this time, the community starts to know, wow, this dental office isn't so great to go to. Typically, you'll see about a 50% reduction in patient retention. You also have to report the loss or the stolen backup drive to the Department of Health and Human Services. Now you have an 18-month HIPAA audit. Not fun. I'm just a trainer. I train offices to the standard of HIPAA Omnibus rule, give them updated forms, new manuals, and connect the dots, so we put all the protocols in place. But at this point, it's out of my expertise. So if there's that stolen backup drive, we have to retain a HIPAA lawyer. Retainer's $50,000. By the end of it all, I've been through 3 of these adventures. The fine at the end for an innocent doctor trying to do the right thing, take their backup drive home with them as they've always done. Now they're in a $150,000 fine. It destroys the integrity of the practice. So please look into choosing a very reliable, off-site encrypted cloud type encryption. I know a lot of people are worried about clouds, but the backup drives that you take home are even more vulnerable for you. So the law now under these omnibus rules, your daily data backup should be off-site and encrypted. The government even wants you to do reports, either annually, biannually, to say, how is my IT company or my IT tech protecting our daily data backup? So that does have to go within the standard of the law. HIPAA auditors look at your protocols, look at your paperwork, and they want to make sure everyone on your team is educated about HIPAA, the omnibus rules, and especially about how to handle patient PHI, protected health information.
Well, sweet. Yeah, that answers my next question. I was going to say, who needs to be most aware of the HIPAA laws? So it's really obviously the front desk, right? And then the
Oh my, yeah, for sure. Everyone has to be trained to this new HIPAA omnibus rule standard. So you have to have a proof of training sheet that everyone has been trained. So if you have new employees, within 30 days, you want to make sure that they have a training module that they can get up to par with the rest of the team. Everyone has to be trained. Let's face it, I'm a hygienist. I take a patient back to my chair. They didn't get to finish their paperwork. I need to be familiar with the patient forms and the HIPAA protocols, because sometimes I'm going to be, even in a clinical setting, be asked or called upon to explain HIPAA. Your receptionists and your office managers. So many times I get calls, office managers thinking they're doing the right thing, they're loyal, they're really dedicated to their dental practice. They may withhold patient information. The patient owes us a balance. I'm not giving up those x-rays. Even though they requested it, I'm not giving it up. Nowadays, under these new HIPAA omnibus rules, since 2013, you must give the patient, upon written request, their x-rays and their records. So that's the new law. I think some of these lawmakers may not have been able to obtain their medical records when they wanted to. So the new law is your x-rays and your records belong to you, the patient. Don't obscure justice. Please make sure that you're giving any patient who requests their records and x-rays, give those to the patient. So I think office managers and receptionists are on the front line. They must be educated to these laws. They must know what guardians can have access to records. Another thing, Justin, is divorced parents. Think about it. Parents are divorcing all the time. You have a HIPAA sign-in sheet. Whenever you know that, wow, a couple has kids, you don't know what their status is with their relationship. Make sure if they are divorcing, they need to put ex-grandparents that may take a child to a dental appointment, new boyfriends and girlfriends, and get this, if they're dating and their dating pool changes, have them sign another HIPAA acknowledgement form. You don't want mothers, I get this all the time, moms are in the reception room and the girlfriend or the parent is bringing the kids to a cleaning, and there's World War III. The dental office doesn't want to end up in family court over forms that weren't signed. And unfortunately, the kids sometimes have to suffer by not being able to keep a dental appointment. But if your receptionists and office managers have been trained to have new HIPAA omnibus rule forms within your office, namely a patient acknowledgement form, make sure that all those guardians are signed, sealed, and delivered. You can have good flow and function with your appointments. So those are two situations that I see all the time. You want to make sure divorcing parents, that you have stability there, and that your receptionists and office managers know what information they can share and should share quickly and what information they shouldn't. As a coach, our team we answer our phones 24/7 because you never know when someone's going to call and go, wow, we have a patient here, a situation like this, or this happened yesterday and it's really bothering me, and now it's a Saturday morning or a Sunday morning and the doctor's really nervous. So it's my pleasure to always help, and your audience can also give us a call or contact us anytime. I really want to be there as a resource for your listeners so that we can make sure you get acclimated, get enlightened, and then get yourself on the right track with implementing your employee training, having the right paperwork updated, and then getting these protocols for OSHA, for HIPAA in place.
Excellent. And so I heard you mention about HIPAA landmines. Can you explain? I know you just mentioned about some of these forms, some of the different family situations. I assume this is kind of what you're talking about. Is you don't know what you don't know, right? So what are HIPAA landmines?
Exactly. It's a term that I coined, and actually I've just recorded a new Anytime webinar. It's HIPAA horror stories. It's these kinds of things where we get calls every day, unsuspecting dental office personnel who are really committed. They walk into a landmine. One that I mentioned was not giving up the x-rays or the records. You think you're doing the right thing and protecting your doctor, especially if that patient owes a large balance. Well, we'll give up the x-rays after you pay the balance. Please don't do that. In most states, you have 30 days to deliver requested records. When the patient writes you, they can email you. That's a written request, right? So please give those up, except in Texas. Texas, everything's bigger and bolder in Texas. They have state required HIPAA HB 300 laws. Every 2 years in Texas, you must study these laws and you must give the records in 15 days. So that's one landmine. Please don't hold on to x-rays or records. Give those up. In all other states, 30 days. In Texas, you only have 15 days to deliver those documents. Check the parents. When children are coming in, please make sure you have guardians signed and make sure that the guardians have consent to bring children, to get the receipt for dental treatment, to schedule the next appointments. Another landmine would be not having your vendors, your business vendors now have to sign an official HIPAA document called a HIPAA Business Associate Agreement. I think a better name for that document would be a vendor confidentiality agreement. So if a business has any access to patient information, the name, address, phone number, social security number, credit card number, you must have those vendors that share your patient identity information sign these business associate agreements. So many times I get calls from dentists, or a great resource to see what's going on in the dental community. Check out HIPAA Journal. These are a group of HIPAA techs, HIPAA technologists, and they list all the current fines. So you'll see a lot of times the current fines in a healthcare facility or a private dental office is that you have not had proper vendors sign off that they can share your patient information. You see, it's far-reaching where you can start stepping around and just walking down a road of business and you're like, wow, I'm in a landmine, what do I do? Again, if you feel that you're in a shaky situation and you don't quite know what to do, with a HIPAA situation, you can always call us and we'll try to guide you down the right road and certainly make sure that you have your training and paperwork and protocols in place. That's always the best bet.
Why do they call it HIPAA laws or omnibus rules? Where does that come from?
The omnibus law. I know, that's a crazy name, isn't it? By definition, an omnibus is a volume containing previously published parts. Funny enough, comic books are written in omnibus format. So you'll have a Superman omnibus or Batman omnibus, but this isn't very funny. So before 2013, there were 500 pages of HIPAA. Then in March of 2012, they added 80 more pages. So the government, they wrote these laws very obtuse because they knew the internet was changing and the world of technology was really going to change. Also, they know that there's a lot of internet bandits out there, right? So identity thieves. They wrote things pretty obtuse so that the world can change before they have to do another update. So you have to be really careful because these new omnibus rules, 500 original pages plus the 80 new pages, compiled the omnibus rules. They are very vague. Dental enhancements. One summer, I didn't have a great summer, Justin, the summer of 2012. I took the 580 pages with our legal team and we rewrote them, recondensed them down into a 50-page workbook, a 50-minute video, and then we created 17 new forms for healthcare. So we took all of those and said, what does a dental office really need? They need a training module. They need the new forms written. You know, some of our competitors make forms. They say, here's a kit, study the law, and then make your own forms. It takes 800 hours to do that. So we have, for sure, 5 forms that you'll want to use in the dental office. We have your video, the workbook, an updated HIPAA manual written to the Omnibus standard. Please make sure when you go back into your dental offices, check the edition of your HIPAA manual. It should be written after September of 2013 and say that it's written to the Omnibus rules. We include the manual, and then we always include 30 to 60 minutes of guided help with one of our HIPAA coaches. Don't you hate getting a compliance update module and it comes to your office like a manual and a video and you're like, oh my God, life happens, dentistry happens. You put it off to the side. The next thing you know, you have an OSHA or HIPAA inspector coming in and you're blowing off the dust. Sorry, we didn't fill out the manual. It's not filled in. We never want that to happen. So we take all the components and parts and bits and pieces and paper and checklists, and then we'll spend 30 to 60 minutes with you, fill in the blanks in the manuals, make sure you start printing and using these new forms that are specifically designed for the dental office. And then we give you a year of guided help. So we get everything in place. That's your training, the paperwork, and the facility protocols. By the way, you can use that training video over and over with new hires. So I think the name of our products are HIPAA Made Easy because we want to give you everything and then we want to give you support. We're pretty passionate about success with this, and omnibus rules are complicated. So that's it. An omnibus is 500 pages of HIPAA law plus 80 more pages. Please make sure when you implement these protocols that you have something that's comprehensive and you keep the protocols, the paperwork, training for all employees, and make sure you have a nice resource so that you don't get lost as things update, because they do. Every week things update and seem to change and get more complex and convoluted.
Okay, but do they really, do they really go after like a solo practitioner or a small-time dentist? Aren't they looking for the big fish?
You know, there's both things going on. There's institutional and there's big business, bigger healthcare facilities that it's like a conglomerate. That's true. But if you look at the HIPAA Journal, I love the HIPAAjournal.com because these texts put up real life experiences of smaller offices. So for instance, an office might think, you know, nothing's going on. We had a great experience with this patient. Here is another landmine. If you want another landmine, here it is. Patient has a great experience. Then at the checkout, patients are standing in back of each other. You always should have your patients not stand in back of each other within hearing distance of one another. Please have any additional patients. If you don't want to redesign and reconfigure your dental office, make them sit in the reception room. For instance, patient has a great experience. She's going to leave the office. The credit card bounces, or the receptionist might start talking too loud about her implants, her denture, the cost of her dental treatment. That patient's embarrassed. All of a sudden, you take a beautiful experience with a beautiful dental outcome. The patient's upset. She goes in her car. She has her little cell phone. You Google everything. You Google search. You can put up a bad report on Yelp or give a really bad review to the dental office. Ouch, that hurts. Worse yet, these technically savvy patients will also go on to the Office of Civil Rights for the Department of Health and Human Rights, report you for a HIPAA breach. That means that the dental office then gets contacted and an 18-month-long HIPAA inspection is the result. It's insidious. They can call your office or come in every week, every month. We have to then jump through the hoops of delivering the paperwork that they want and implementing those protocols. So please don't let that happen to you. Typically, it's as the result. HIPAA reports are as a result of a disgruntled patient. And you never know if someone just walks out and they've had a bad experience. The next thing you know, I had last week a call. Patient came in for a second opinion. They wanted to use their x-rays from their former dental office. He got them over within the 30 days, no problem. They were cone cut and you couldn't read any of them. They were horrible. So the new dentist said, hey, we'll take another FMX. They did a digital set of x-rays, but they charged the guy $136. He didn't like that. They should have just comped the x-rays, because guess what? He reported them. There's an 18-month-long inspection. And the poor receptionist is like, oh my gosh, I wish we would have just comped in the x-rays. Now we know. So you never know what people want and what they're capable of. Better to get educated, have everything in place, have all of your team members aware of what's going on and what are your protocols. If this happens, then we do this, right? Or get on the phone and be able to call as a resource. right? Important stuff under these new HIPAA Omnibus rules. They're insidious. So it's good to get enlightened, educated, and just implement everything as soon as possible.
I don't know if we want to say they're insidious too loud. I think we
For sure, right? You never know. Big Brother's watching, right, Justin?
What we meant was they're inspiring.
They're inspiring. Well, you know, they are inspiring. Once you have things in place in your office, you feel so much better. You really do feel enlightened. You feel engaged and on top of the laws, and you feel like you're protecting your patients as well, you know? So they're confusing because they're so vague. That's where an office doesn't know what direction to turn. You don't even know what you might be doing wrong. You're trying to do the right thing, and the next thing you know, you're in trouble, and you didn't even mean to get yourself in trouble with HIPAA officers, you know?
Yeah, so speaking of staying out of trouble, I mean, what do they look for? What do the auditors, the HIPAA auditors, even look for?
You know, an auditor is going to most likely come in because of a report. So straight away, they're going to look at the incident. They're going to look closely at that incident. Was it because of paperwork that wasn't being filled out correctly? Is it because of the flow and functionality of the dental office? They're going to look at three things. They're going to look to make sure that you have physical aspects, technical aspects, and administrative aspects of HIPAA in place. This means computers, software, proper daily data backup, make sure that everyone is emailing correctly, protecting that patient information, texting correctly. All of the forms have to be updated, an updated HIPAA manual, and the inspector will question individuals. Your hygienist, your dental assistant, even your part-time help that might come in, you know, after work to process instruments. So there is a far reach. First, the auditor is going to look at the incident, but he is also going to look at those physical, technical, and administrative practices of the office. So you have to be sure everyone's trained with a signed agreement, that you have all the paperwork, forms, and a manual up to date to the HIPAA Omnibus standard. We also provide a checklist, 25 different things, the focus and the functions within the dental practice. So the protocols have to be updated as well.
That's all really interesting. I like how you tied it into patient experience. I actually did not know that reporting someone is the reason why these investigations are kicked off. I thought it was kind of like an IRS thing where they comb through, you know, maybe 0.5% per year of people and make sure they're paying their taxes. But
yeah, it can be. It can be just a spot audit. But if you take a look, again, I'm going to go back to the great IT guys, my friends, the IT nerds at the HIPAA Journal. You'll see a lot of times it's something totally innocent, and it's somebody who's disgruntled, a patient who's disgruntled. Now, I will say that OSHA inspections are usually a result of a disgruntled employee or a disgruntled patient. HIPAA, most of the time, these techno-savvy patients get on their phones and they just go to the Office of Civil Rights or the Department of Health and Human Services. It's so quick and easy to report a breach for a patient. You Google that term, report a HIPAA breach for a dental office, boom, it comes right up, and they can take 5 minutes and report that breach. The dental office, on the other hand, is going to be in an 18-month-long, drawn-out inspection and audit.
Now, why is it 18 months? Is it always 18 months? Is it sometimes longer? Is it sometimes shorter?
Sometimes it's shorter, but they have the right to work with your office and ask for protocols and paperwork over an 18-month term. That's just how they wrote the Omnibus rules, because they figured, you know, as an inspection or an investigation is going on, sometimes the technology changes even within that time frame. Think of how we used to use email, phones, text, Facebook, right? Things like that. So things can change. And so they want to make sure that they have enough time to make sure that when they are correcting any kind of wrongdoing, that they're doing it to the best of their ability so that that doctor can have success going onward and be able to practice up to these standards. So they are helpful to a degree, but it is a lot of work. They're trying to sort of force you down the road of compliance. It's better to get educated and enlightened, just like a root canal, right? Isn't it better before that root canal is infected and you're forced to have that emergency treatment? It's better to treat it and be proactive. So I think while the inspectors try to help you, you are already down a bad situation. So there's not a lot of proactivity. You're sort of forced into compliance at that point.
You know, if a dentist is a procrastinator, I don't know if he has the right to be upset at his patients for procrastinating on their dental health.
This is true. And you know, you can get an entire HIPAA Omnibus rule module. You can get the manual, all the forms, the training video, and the support for under $400. So why procrastinate when the fines start at $10,000 and they go to 1.5 million? So it's really kind of smart business to just get enlightened, look for a resource that's going to help you, and for under $400, you're golden.
And in fact, you're offering a special offer to the listeners. Can you tell us about that?
I am, especially for you, Justin, the dental marketing guy, and your listeners. So if a doctor wants to get enlightened, please give us a call. You can call us, email us, and my coaches and I will, if you mention the dental marketing guy, they're going to get 15% off their first order. That means if you want our HIPAA module, you may need international OSHA, global harmonization system, or federal OSHA. So any first order, you'll get 15% off, which is great. So that's even more savings, and we're really happy to do that. We're so passionate about our services and what we can bring to your office and all the products that we deliver and the support. It just makes it so much easier, especially on the office managers and receptionists, also a doctor, to understand this. So we're very dedicated to your success, and we're willing to make that offer, and we hope that your listeners will take advantage of that. First time, 15% off. Just mention that when you give us a call. Just mention the dental marketing guy, because we really love the stuff you talk about, Justin. Thank you so much for making sure that in the dental profession, we have a resource like you to come to, and you do such great, compelling interviews like this. I really think that it's a great resource. So that's our offer, 15% off for your listeners.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. I'm sure the listeners will take action on that. Where can they find you again? It's dentalenhancements.com.
Yeah, dentalenhancements.com. Anyone can email me, Jill, Jill, at dentalenhancements.com. And our phone number, if you want to just give us a call, it's of course on the website, 941-587-2864. So just give a call, 941-587-2864. Any email to me, Jill at dentalenhancements.com. We'll be sure to first talk about your needs, talk about your situation. Make sure that you have the right solutions chosen for your office. 15% off to the dental marketing guy listeners.
Excellent. Excellent. Now, before we come to a close on our time, I do want to say, I do online marketing. I do SEO for dentists, and, that includes building websites for dentists. I want to know some things about what are the requirements as far as HIPAA is concerned, and I know some of my colleagues are going to want to know this too. What are some of the HIPAA requirements coming out the gate? I know you spent your whole summer poring over this prolix legalese. Tell me about the HIPAA requirements as far as dental websites are concerned.
Wow, and it doesn't end. 2013 was the start of it, but things change and update all the time. So my team and I, with our legal team, really keep abreast of the changes. Two things for your website. Please make sure it's required to have the new Notice of Privacy Practices. It's a document. It's the law, the doctrine of these new Omnibus rules. So a Notice of Privacy Practices, you must have that posted on your website. Most IT techs will take the Notice of Privacy Practices. They make a little button that says NOPP, or Notice of Privacy Practices, and when you click that, any patient or any visitor to the site, it will pop up. So if you are a healthcare professional with a website that includes dental offices, you must have the Notice of Privacy Practices attached, embedded, and then able to pop up for your patients. Second thing, if you're sharing patient forms, right? So you're attracting new patients and you're going, oh, let's make them a new patient. It is okay to share the form. I would not have them coming backwards, because you have to have certain encryption. That can get expensive. You have to have certain code and encryption code. So either talk to your IT professional or your webmaster about that. But I'd say it's okay to give the new forms out, please make the patient print those. Do it the old-fashioned way. Have them bring in paper if you can. If you are going to do backwards sharing of that information, remember there's a tricky line between are they considered a new patient or are they considered just a web surfer. But once somebody has intention to start becoming a patient, you have to make sure that's patient PHI. You don't want to have social security numbers, name, birthday for sure. But if you're having addresses, email addresses, phone numbers, that's a tricky one. So please, if you're sharing those forms, outward bound is okay, but have that patient bring that sensitive health information with them to their appointment. Those are the 2 tips I have for websites.
Excellent, excellent. So if our listeners remember nothing else besides the 15% off, of course, for that course, what are 3 quick tips we can provide the listeners, just super short and punchy, as far as how to protect yourself from HIPAA, I guess you could say HIPAA interference, government interference?
Number 1, get your team trained. Make sure everyone is trained to these new HIPAA Omnibus rules. I think the best way is to have a resource, go through either a live webinar, have a backup video. Make sure that's always up to date. So each year you might want to have an update support program too. Training is key. Paperwork. You must have a HIPAA manual written to the new Omnibus rule standard. Check your manual. Make sure it's published after September 2013 and have at least 5 different forms. A patient form, an employee confidentiality form, that notice of privacy practices, a data backup report at least annually, and you'll also want to make sure you have that business associate agreement. 5 forms for sure. And the third thing, facility protocols. Anything from the patient checking in and out, making sure that's private, at least not for conversation over here, to how you're going to text, email, software updates, and make sure that computers and software are always to the new standard. So those things, employee training, paperwork, and facility protocols. Those are the hot tips to make sure that you're building a comprehensive program to be protected to the new HIPAA Omnibus rule standards.
Excellent. Well, it's been very educational. You've got a lot of passion for this. I can tell our listeners got a great amount of value. Listen, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to Jill. You can reach out to me. Let me know what you think in the comments below. If you see this on YouTube, Dental Town, the Dental Marketing Guy blog, whatever, wherever you see this, just give it a thumbs up or leave us a comment. Let us know what you're thinking. If you have any questions for Jill, feel free to reach out. That's dentalenhancements.com. And thank you very much one last time to the guest of honor, Jill.
Thank you so much, Justin. We love what you're doing out there. The Dental Marketing Guy rocks, and we just really appreciate this opportunity. And truly, your listeners can reach out to us anytime, day or night. We're really happy to get them down the right road when it comes to compliance, OSHA or HIPAA. Thanks a lot for having us, Justin. We're so excited to be your guest tonight. Thanks again.
Well, it's been great. It's been great. It's been educational and eye-opening, and that HIPAAjournal.com, that sounds really interesting. So you might want to read some of those stories or just reach out to Jill directly. Thank you for watching the Dental Marketing Guy Show.